How's it work?
Powered on, you strap yourself in and suffer while it rips your insides out.
Oh. Blast core. Ha. Strap me in.
Yeah.
Well, wait a second. I thought we were going to talk about this, Cole.
You want a new power? How about one of mine? How about I get one of yours, huh?
No.
Hey, you gotta admit, it makes sense to swap powers. The stronger we are as a team, the more we get done. Look at what we did today.
Bigger is better.
This is not...
All right, hey. Nix and I'll swap powers, and then we'll destroy it. I promise.
No. No, if you're going to swap powers with anyone, it needs to be me.
You pick her when we're through, man.
You pick her? I have no choice, Cole. I have to hunt you down like a criminal.
Hello there, and welcome to episode 38 of the video game podcast, PlayStation Pals. And I do want to give a quick heads up before we start this episode that we launched our first ever bonus episode in which you can listen to us talk about our likes and dislikes with the 2023 remake of Dead Space. So that is in the feed. If you completed the game and you want to hear our thoughts, do it. And who are we? Well, I'm your host, Nick, and I'm joined by the Blake to my K, John. John, how are you doing today?
Well, I don't know, Nick. I mean, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm literally watching baseball on the TV as of this moment, which just always fills my belly.
You're focused.
Yeah, I'm super focused, but you know, I can't not look at baseball. It's like my main thing in my entire life. So, besides video games, of course.
Okay.
But
No, we have it on recorded audio. It's your favorite thing now.
I mean, I probably would never deny that. I don't think. You know, if you asked me,
Wow, I wish I knew this before we got 38 episodes into a podcast.
you want to do a baseball podcast?
No, not a chance.
No, okay. Well, good. I'm glad we cleared that up. No, I'm doing okay, man. I mean, we got another snowy one out there. Fimbulwinter is still going on for some weird reason. I don't know. But yeah, man, happy to be here. Happy to be talking games. That's what we do.
Yeah, that is what we do here, and this is how that works. John and I both bring three things to talk about. It can be a game we're playing, it can be a topic, it can be an email to PlayStationPalsPod@gmail.com or a Twitter DM at PSPalsPod, and any news items we want to talk about. And because there were so many news items this week, the first thing I'm going to bring is all of those news items. The very first one is, as you remember on this very show, I love Neon White, but unfortunately, my save got deleted.
Neon White didn't love you back?
It did not, and it was not my bumbling that caused the save file to be deleted. It was an issue with the game. Other people reported it. They were aware of it, and they fixed it. So this was a while ago. This was on February 17th, but there is a new patch for Neon White in which it fixes the save file wipe issue. So you can.
Question on my mind, Nick, is: are you going back? You've said in the past that you are not going to do that, but when I told you that this patch was here, you kind of lit up, but you turned your head real quick and you said, "Well, maybe I'm gonna have to download that." So what are you thinking?
Maybe we could talk about this in the later topic, but
Oh, okay. Good.
But I don't know. Maybe. There's a lot to play, as we will get into later in this episode.
Cool.
But I did want to make the listeners aware, if they were avoiding it. And again, it was my best indie game of last year, despite my file being completely erased. So just wanted to get that out there. All right, the next item. During an earnings call, we got the announcement that Mortal Kombat 12 is coming for 2023. This is fiscally, so this could be, all the way till March of 2024. But this actually goes against the NVIDIA leak, which said Injustice 3: Gods Will Fall was the next game coming from NetherRealm Studios. John, they can be working on both games, as is certainly a thing. What do you think? Are you excited? Well, first of all, are you excited for another Mortal Kombat game? Let's start there.
Well, no. No, I mean I am, but as we've said before, fighting games aren't really either of our speeds, so it's hard to get genuinely excited for it to come out. Now, I will say I am always a sucker for seeing some new fatalities, seeing like just how batshit insane that series can get. So, yeah, you know, it's an important series in the world of video games. It's been around since the early '90s, so always happy to see a little bit more of it. But you know, to be excited to get ready to play it, you know, when it comes out, I can't say I'm too pumped on it.
Well, it seems like they just stick around for so long. Like Mortal Kombat 11, you know, came out and then had its season pass. Then it had that big expansion, the Aftermath expansion. And then it had even more season pass characters. That it seems I don't know, a little early to to have this.
Yeah, I
You
mean, yeah. Mortal Kombat 11 was 2019. So, you know, assuming it comes out either later this year or early next year, we're looking at about 4.5, 5 years. I mean, that's kind of standard. I'm wondering now, since Tekken 8's coming out this year, is how long was the gap between 7 and 8?
Yeah,
So that was 2015.
So it is a stacked fighting game year, and of course NetherRealm was going to release a fighting game regardless, even if it was Injustice or not. But it does have some steep competition if it does in fact release this year. Between Tekken 8 and Street Fighter 6.
I think people just figured out, man. I think they figured out over at NetherRealm that people are fucking sick of superheroes. All right, we don't want superheroes anymore.
I don't know about that.
I know, just kidding. I'm sorry. Got to egg my buddy Nick on.
I don't know. I haven't bought into the last two, so I don't know if I'm.
I will say the weirdest thing about it is just like, if you follow this industry like we do, you know that everything is on purpose. There are never, like, you know, when you announce things, when you use press releases with certain CEOs, they pick their words very carefully. Everything is on purpose. And, like, why did they let this one slip through or whatever? Like, is this really what they wanted to do? They wanted to just say, yeah, whatever, it's the earnings call, we don't care, it's Mortal Kombat, whatever. But I wonder if that was a mistake or if they kind of said, yeah, we don't care.
Or there's another Mortal Kombat movie coming as well, so just get that cross synergy going.
Yeah, that's the new move.
Yeah, so wouldn't be surprised, but yeah, you probably expect that announcement, you know, this summer.
That's a summer announcement, yeah.
Yep. So, moving on to the next topic, Outer Worlds. I forget what year that game came out. It was same year as Jedi Fallen Order.
I want to say
2019 or Control. Yeah, it was the same year as that. So 2019. This is from Obsidian. It is a Skyrim in space is probably the easiest way to put it. It is a first-person RPG with guns and you explore worlds.
Say little tiny Skyrims in space.
Yeah,
because like you go planet to planet to planet. It's not a huge
right.
interconnected world,
Right.
but yeah.
It's a lot like Starfield. The anticipated Xbox exclusive. It is getting a PS5 upgrade just out of nowhere. So Outer Worlds Spacer Choice Edition is coming to PS5, and you don't even have to wait. It's March 7th. That's next week.
Yeah, I mean, that's a strange one as well. As we know, Obsidian, owned by Microsoft. I think this is the first post-purchase product that probably was like from stem to stern incubated under Microsoft that is coming to PlayStation. So it is a little interesting. But Nick, I think we have the same opinion on this game. It's an okay game. It's got good writing. Obsidian is a great writing team. That's what I would say they're probably best at. And, the guys that did Fallout New Vegas, and they just came out with Pentiment, which is a very narrative-heavy thing. But the gunplay just was not there for me. The gameplay elements that I was kind of hoping for just fell a little flat. So it was much more of a narrative thing. But, if you like sci-fi, you can't get enough of that, that world, that type of game. Check it out.
Yeah, I regretfully bought this game instead of Jedi Fallen Order, and not like 2 weeks later, I had already returned Outer Worlds and bought Fallen Order.
Were you super pumped for this? What did you think this game was gonna be?
I mean, I love Fallout. I love Skyrim and all that. I thought that this would be a what Starfield looks to be, a space faring version of those games. Yeah. And I don't know, just the writing didn't click with me, and I got off the base planet and you kind of go to this big space station and my quest log was just piling up and I was just like, I'm not doing
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, because if you're going on these quests and if the gunplay is not fun, if like you're not having fun achieving what you need to, yeah, it's not worth it. So.
Yeah.
But to each their own.
Yep. There it is. The next news item is that Shinji Mikami, hot off the release of Hi-Fi Rush from Tango Gameworks, is leaving Tango Gameworks, which was confirmed by Bethesda. They had this to say about it. We can confirm that Shinji Mikami has decided to leave Tango Gameworks in the coming months. We thank him for his work as a creative leader and supportive mentor to young developers on the Evil Within franchise, Ghostwire Tokyo, and of course Hi-Fi Rush. We wish Mikami-san well in the future and are excited by what lies ahead for the talented developers at Tango. Again, Shinji Mikami, famous horror creator, Resident Evil under his belt. Just to name one small, tiny franchise that's still around, still excited for this month.
Yeah, yeah. He's an OG, man. I mean, he's one of those guys that, he's in the top 10 of notable video game directors. He's not a Kojima, but if you say Shinji Mikami to people who are kind of made video games a big part of their life, they're going to know who he is. So, yeah, it's a little interesting to see just the timing of it all. Like, I feel like his thing that he has a passion for is horror above all. So to see his last game there with Hi-Fi Rush is kind of interesting. I don't know if if maybe Microsoft is kind of telling that studio, be like, look, we had such a big success with this, and this is what we kind of want you guys to start going towards, as opposed to stick to what Mikami likes to do, which is horror. I don't know. That's pure speculation, just trying to analyze the situation, but could be something along those lines. I don't think he's ready to hang it up quite yet, though.
No. He is up there. He's in his 50s, but and he was at Tango Gameworks for 12 years, so this just might, change the scenery, like there's not much to read on.
Did you say he's a founder, right?
Yeah, I believe. Well,
okay.
Now you're. I don't know if you said that. I'm almost sure that he was. That this was the studio that he founded.
Founded by Shinji Mikami. Yep. Okay.
So, yeah, he'd been there. 2010. So the 13 years. Gosh, it's 2023. So this could be a change of scenery. The studio's off the ground. He's made his money. So he's just probably excited to move on.
Right. Maybe he hates Phil Spencer. I don't know.
It's true. That's true.
He just can't stand him.
Well, that's always interesting when a parent company comes in, is like they don't want, you can't, like someone, when Microsoft eats Bethesda, they would, they probably typically write it in contracts that Todd Howard can't leave and Shinji Mikami, because those are the people you want, right?
Right.
Like, well, what's Bethesda without all the great minds that behind all their titles? So maybe that is the end of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe. No, it's not pure speculation. Maybe, if Todd Howard was to leave Bethesda, that wouldn't shock me at all. He's been there forever.
Fucking Todd Howard,
and he's made his money, so.
That guy's something.
Yeah, so.
I will say something interesting. Just the completion of the Bethesda deal was 2 years ago, almost to the day.
Yeah. So
the complete, like, not the announcement, but like when the purchase was finalized. So
yeah,
that could have been a 2-year contract. So I'm gonna hang out for 2 years and then go do my own thing. Who knows?
Yep. That is pretty common when another company gobbles another one.
Yeah.
They actually usually set aside even more money to retain that talent, to pay them so that they stay for a certain amount of time.
Sony, when they bought Bungie, I think $1.2 billion. Billion was set aside for retention.
Yep.
And if you do the math on that, I've heard that is solely for bonuses. Mm-hmm. There's only about 900 people that work at Bungie.
Only 900.
Only 900, huge. But divide 1.2 billion by 900. If that's true, and we know that there's a shortage with good developers out there right now. You see Sega hiking their rates or their salaries by 30%. A lot of Japanese companies are doing that right now because there is a shortage of pure talent in the industry. So yeah, it's super important to say, like, look, we want Bungie, but not just the name. Like, you guys make up the company. The people here make up the company. So retention's everything right now.
Yeah. So this again, pure speculation. We don't know that, but again. Timing looks pretty good. And last but not least...
Better be what I think it is.
What?
I don't know, you go.
I don't know. There's this game. It's kind of okay. I don't know. It's not my thing, but it's getting. I'm sorry, it's Elden Ring. It's getting a huge expansion. Well, speculating on the huge part, but one would assume
It will be.
But no date, nothing. We got a piece of art. We got a title. Shadow of the Erdtree for Elden Ring is coming. Don't sell your copies, John. You don't have a deadline yet, but you probably want to get through the game before this comes out because I believe, as you told me, they saved their hardest bosses
Typically.
for their DLC.
Yeah.
So,
Yes,
again,
typically they do.
saddle up all you tarnished out there.
Yeah, Millennia is going to look like a little bitch, I'm sure, after whatever they decide to put onto the DLC. But, we all knew it was coming. Elden Ring was simply too huge to not have something like this. I think the only game from Software in the past has not done DLC for was Sekiro. So, maybe since that was their game before Elden Ring, there's reason to believe that they wouldn't do this. But, we just found out this game sold 20 million copies. It lit the world on fire. So, as somebody who hasn't even finished the main game yet, I am very excited for this. I'm sure anybody who has finished it, played through it when it came out, doesn't have kids like myself, and has been waiting to jump back into that world and see what it has to offer. It's going to be huge. It's going to be great. I'm sure it'll be tied to the world in some way. I believe, I don't know if it's every single previous FromSoft DLC, but there's always this weird, you have to do this thing and go this place, and then this portal is going to open to get you to where you need to go. So it's probably not going to be as straightforward. It's not going to be something you launch right into. It'll probably just be an extension of the world in some weird way. But yeah, it's going to be I don't know, man. It's going to be take up all the oxygen in the room again, I'm sure, when it comes out.
Yeah, and when you beat the game, we'll touch on this, or maybe they'll do a proper trailer. Like, what would you want from this? You expect new bosses, new weapons, all that jazz. But I'd be curious as to what you'd want from a gameplay perspective or any kind of change.
Dude, that's the wild thing about that game. There's very few games out there that I can't criticize or critique or try to improve. That's one of them though. I don't know what you do. I don't know how you enhance that the systems that they've built. It's Hades is another good example. It's I don't know how to improve that. How is Hades 2 gonna do? Just do what you did again. I that's fine with me. Anything they do, it's gonna be amazing. I'm sure.
Yeah, there's quite a few things for you to be excited for, bud.
No, my life is pain. Or what else do I have to be excited for?
Well, when you get the chance to play them, you'll be eating good.
Yes.
So, all right, that's the end of my news segment. That was all the ones that I could find. They just kept building up, so had to bring all of them. So
Good.
Let's move on.
All right. Well, we also got some more a little bit of tasty treats for one of the other biggest games coming out this year. That's Final Fantasy XVI, Nick. We got some hands-on impressions from a lot of outlets, and so they got me excited about it. I want to get you excited about it. I want to get our audience excited about it. So just kind of wanted to go over a little bit of what they showed off, or the things that we kind of know now. So Final Fantasy XVI, we know, is coming June 22nd, developed by Square Enix. And this was primarily, I believe, a combat showcase. That was really the intention for the demo that they let the outlets get. They gave them a 2-hour slice of the game, approximately 5 hours into it, and then they focused on 3 boss battles. But I think this game is primed to do exactly what all the fans and everybody wants it to do, and potentially could be the biggest release of the year outside of Zelda. I didn't really think it was going to be on a personal level until they showed all of this stuff. So what we kind of got was a fight between the main character Clive and Benedicta. That's kind of the first boss that you go into, and it's a humanoid character. Your typical, we're going to show you some of the sword play, show you kind of how the basic combat works. And what people remarked on immediately is how gritty the combat feels, way grittier than any other Final Fantasy game in the past, and there's a very good reason for that, which we've known this before. But the combat director of the game is Ryoto Suzuki. Nick, do you know who Ryoto Suzuki is? I know you probably do, just based on where this is going, but
Tell me in the audience. Inform us.
So we got a quote from Polygon that says, Final Fantasy XVI is a fascinating mix of Devil May Cry and Game of Thrones. Devil May Cry is the game that Ryoto Suzuki works on. He's the combat director of that. Game's got pretty good combat. Like it's a lot faster paced than anything we've ever seen in the Final Fantasy series. And so I would expect to really see a big jump up with like your just moment to moment combat. But the biggest thing that this demo kind of showed to people, and the thing that we're all wanting to get our hands on and experience with this game, are these icons. It's spelled EIKONS. And for people who are Final Fantasy fans, those are basically your summons. Where in the past you would summon these creatures out. They might come out, they might do some elemental attacks, huge attack to knock off some enemies, and then they go away. But they're kind of being retweaked a little bit here, where they're almost part of your standard combat abilities moment to moment. And what I mean by that is with your your L2 trigger, much like Devil May Cry, how you could cycle through your weapons, you have an icon that's attached to your attacks at any given time. And you can hit L2 to cycle through them, where you might have Ifrit, and he's going to give you some fire attacks. You might have Garuda, she's going to give you some wind attacks. And it's going to allow you to do different combat and things that way. But then, that's not it. It wouldn't just be, awesome if you could just use these enemies or these icons that way. But you can also summon them, just like you would, right? Where you have these huge fucking monsters that give you these huge sensitive scales, like you would kind of see in Shadow of the Colossus, and you just get to watch these awe-inspiring battles just take place right in front of your eyes, where you get that true sense of scale that, we've gotten before in video games. Shadow of the Colossus, God of War, was able to do that in the past, but luckily for us, good news is that it seems like they nailed that same sense of awe. And it doesn't just stop there, where you get to watch these battles take place. The big thing that they've kind of been touting with this game, especially in the combat system, is that you will get to control these icons themselves and have these huge anime-style kaiju battles, which is unlike anything we've ever seen in Final Fantasy. And I'm happy to report that this is also something that the outlets were very positive on after they left it. They said that each one of the icons had a bespoke, version of commands, so they all felt unique, they all felt different. Much slower. You're not gonna be able to pull off some awesome, crazy combos like you could with a fast-moving character like Clive with his sword, but they do a great job of mixing in your combat with cutscenes and with cinematics and things to kind of really ramp up the level of engagement and just jaw-dropping spectacle, right? So like for instance, one thing I read was you're fighting, you're doing big attacks, but every single time your icon hit the enemy, it did a very specific animation where one time he hit him and he dragged his face through the landscape and then threw him. The other animation, he took a big rock and he threw it. Like everything is going to feel very, I think, just unique and not rinse and repeat kind of stuff, which is exciting. So yeah, I mean, we didn't get into a lot of other things. We don't know where the story entirely is going. We don't know a very wide range of characters, but we did get a good glimpse of the combat, and it's it looks to be shaping up to be one of those Final Fantasy games that is kind of remembered for being one of the good ones. You see that with this series, right? 7, 9, 12, personally 10. Are the ones that you kind of remember fondly. 13, 15, those are fine, but they don't hold those, instant classic statuses, and I think this one's going to. So I'm going to ask you a question, Nick. Mm-hmm. What does this game need to do to be considered a success? I know that's hard if you need to think about it, but just to kind of frame it, Final Fantasy 15, I personally feel like most people would say that game was not a success. It was fine, but it was an 81 on Metacritic. It's sold 10 million copies. Again, success. That's a success on paper, but this is Final Fantasy we're talking about. Mm-hmm. What does this game need to do to launch itself back onto the top of the video game world?
Yeah, you're probably looking at a 90 plus review. I mean, to be that good, and bring back. I mean, it has Final Fantasy on it, so it's gonna sell. So I think that's only it. It has to review critically when we're at the Keeleys, the Game Awards. It has to be nominated, especially with this year being very stacked. I think that I think if it did that, it would they would be back. But I mean, it's interesting because it's only on PlayStation 5, so I am curious as to how it will sell, but I think, again, it's Final Fantasy. It'll sell.
Yeah,
It's a
and if
mainline Final Fantasy game.
if it reviews well, it'll definitely sell. And I mean, the thing that it sounds like we've passed the combat hurdle. It sounds like we can all be pretty confident in the combat at this point.
Can I talk about the combat for a second?
Yeah, of course.
So,
No.
So, RPG fans might be a little dismayed by the fact that they mentioned, like, Devil May Cry, that they're taking inspiration from that. The guy working on Devil May Cry is working on this. And then when you watch the footage itself, it looks right out of a Devil May Cry. You're comboing, you're mixing up, different weapons, just like you did in Devil May Cry. You would use your ebony and ivory and then switch to your sword and then switch to your guitar and all that in this. But one of the cool things that they showed off, and I'm just going to read right from the PlayStation blog, is these accessories that you can equip. So if you are just wildly afraid that you're going to have to remember combos and do manage things while you're doing all this other stuff, this combo-based gameplay, I just wanted to showcase these accessories that they mentioned. So this is right from the PlayStation blog. To make the game more accessible to players who may be less familiar with action gameplay, Final Fantasy XVI features a variety of helpful accessories. There are 5 to choose from, each offering unique benefits, and picking the story-focused setting will let you equip 2 from the get-go. One accessory slows down time to make it easier to perform perfect dodges, while another fully automates the controls of Torgal, Clive's loyal canine companion.
How about Torgal?
Another accessory automatically uses potions when your health is low, and another automatically dodges incoming attacks for you. Perhaps the most visually striking accessory, however, lets you dish out the series of powerful combat and finishers based on your available cooldowns at the press of a single button, showcasing the full breadth and intricacy of the combat system for virtually none of the price and making for a flashy experience. With these accessories, Final Fantasy XVI is designed to be accessible to a wide range of players, regardless of previous experience with action games. Slam dunk.
Boom. Accessibility is so hot right now. It's so hot right now.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's great. I mean, that's awesome that they kind of figured out a way to just widen the gates, widen the amount of people who are going to be interested in this. I will say, like, I would be interested to talk to somebody who is interested in this game but doesn't have the chops for the combat. I know there are people out there like that.
Well, there would probably be plenty. I mean, Final Fantasy typically isn't like this.
I know, but I also feel like Final Fantasy is one of those series that really, at this point, tailors to hardcore gamers. There's not a lot of casual people out there playing Final Fantasy, so it's like, it's great,
and it hasn't been turn-based in a while.
Right. That's what I truly want. Is like, I know they did it a little bit with Final Fantasy VII Remake, where you could slow it down and you could get into turn-based, but like, one of the reasons that Final Fantasy X is my favorite Final Fantasy is because and this might be controversial, I might be in the vast minority here, but I love the fact that it's not ATB, where it's like everything stops. Nothing moves until you figure out what you need to do, and you can look at what the order of operations are, and I like that kind of stuff. So it'd be nice to have a way that you could play these battles where it's like, it would be on the level of like Capcom doing what they do with Resident Evil. We're like, yeah, we're just going to make a VR version 2. It's like you would almost have to make an entirely separate game that's, this turn-based system, but if that's not the direction they want to go, of course that's fine. And when you have the Devil May Cry combat director at your arsenal, why would you want that? So this seems like a great compromise, a great way to allow people to enjoy it the way they want to enjoy it. So,
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's shaping up to be everything we want it to be. I think with Yoshi P, the guy who's basically in charge of Final Fantasy XIV, which I believe at this point is easily regarded as the greatest story ever told in Final Fantasy. It's the best reviewed Final Fantasy. Like, 14 is easily my biggest blind spot in gaming, but I know it's huge. And so the fact that he's with this, I don't think you can feel anyway but extremely confident with this release. So I will be probably picking this one up day one.
Yeah, I agree with you. Only 3 months, man. This is crazy.
Yeah, well, now you don't have to worry about Suicide Squad, so you can don't have to worry about that. Now I just gotta. Early June is Diablo, Street Fighter, and early June. Is there anything else early June?
No, June I think is those 3 titles.
Okay.
Which was all announced at the Game Awards.
Yeah.
And again, any of this can change. Any of those games is probably going to be delayed. At least one.
Yeah, well, they did say Final Fantasy, only way that gets delayed is if a meteor falls on Japan. They said that directly.
Why
So,
would they say that specifically?
I don't know, but Final Fantasy, spoilers. So yeah,
All right.
there we go.
So moving on, I wanted to just bring up a topic as I had just finished Hogwarts Legacy, and I was looking to move on, find my next game. But I find myself in choice paralysis. And no, this is not me bringing the wheel. I will not bring that evil entity into this. But between not only the games that I have access to and the games that I don't have access to that I want to play, and then PlayStation Plus Extra just dropping the hits here over and over and over again, I just wanted a free-form discussion. I don't really have much planned here. Just about what is the best way to tackle your backlog? There's a lot of, if you don't have an instant choice, right? Should you go for the smaller games, the Norcos, the What Remains of Edith Finch, if you plan on playing those, if they're in your list? Should you go by length, or should you go by what's coming up? Resident Evil 4 is coming up. So should I finish Resident Evil 2 and then go right into Resident Evil 3? And I know, John, yours is just, I need to play a game right now.
Just let me play.
Regardless of what it is and the order that I'm playing it in. But is there a system that we can come to at this time?
Solve the backlog problem for everybody.
Yeah. Or I'd even, price is a factor too. Is it if it's a game you don't already own, and I consider backlog any game that you want to play, right? Regardless of price or whether it's in your library or not. Because, you might want to play a game that's out and you just haven't bought it yet. Maybe you're sitting on Hogwarts Legacy to just drop down $20 and then you're going to get it. So, I don't know, John, do you have any thoughts? And you're just the kind of guy that plays everything. I know sales and review scores kind of lead you in the directions you usually go.
Well, just first off, I want you to know that if I told you my backlog was games I want to play, you would smack the shit out of me. So I just want to make that clear. My backlog is only games that I own because I have no impulse control. But it's an interesting thing, and of course it's going to be dependent on every single person. For me, like you said, with 3 children, when I find the moments that I have the ability to kind of choose my next game, I personally tend to skew smaller titles because I know I'll be able to get through it a little bit easier, because I probably have something on the horizon that is going to be that next big experience, a la Resident Evil 4 or Dead Space, right? Those are games I knew I had to section off some chunks of time for. So, for me, Norco's What Remains of Edith Finch, those type of games are perfect for me. But there are some times, though, that a game is so important, Elden Ring. Maybe there isn't something that I'm absolutely chomping at the bit to play for the next 3 or 4 months, and then maybe I will go try and tackle something else. But it's very, very situational.
Sure.
And I like to make myself list personally, where the game that I always play with my wife, because I don't know, I think we all have wives, girlfriends, whatever, at some point. You've probably been in a relationship at some point in your life, and we've all been there where it's what do you want for dinner? Well, I don't know. Do you want anything in the house? No. Okay, do you want to go takeout? What do you want for takeout? I don't know. So the only way that I can get my wife to decide anything is if I go, okay, do you want Taco Bell or pizza? Taco Bell. Okay, do you want Taco Bell or McDonald's? Taco Bell. Okay, do you want Taco Bell or Qdoba? Qdoba. And then you just do that until you find the thing. And I kind of do the same thing with myself for games, where it's okay, I got my 10 games that I probably want to play, right? I know for whatever stupid reason I still want to play the Outer Wilds. I hate that my brain does that, but so I'll list out the 10 games and I'll go, would I rather play Outer Wilds or Tales from Arise? Okay, would I rather play Tales of Arise or this? And I kind of get it down to the point where I have a couple different games that are going to fit those specific life situations, right? And depending on what I think is going to fit best for me, I try to go that way. But I also, I know I'm ranting here.
You're good.
But I also am not opposed to popping a game in, trying it out for a little bit, and putting it down and saying, nope, that's not it. You kind of need to have a little bit of test time for yourself.
Right.
When I start picking up a new game, I kind of, that first night with it, I almost in my head try to say, like, this is the test run night. This is the night where I say, okay, is this what I want to do or is it not? And if it's not, and we're going to talk about a game coming up here in just a second, that I kind of got that feeling pretty quickly. And, and that is much to your ire, where I come in and go, yeah, Nick, I played these 7 games this weekend. You're like, what are you doing? Like, just pick a game and play it. You would have gotten so much more done if you, it doesn't matter how long a game it is, if you just played it. But it's, I live in a life of FOMO with kids, with not enough time. I would personally rather know that I've tried a bunch of things. Maybe something sticks, maybe it doesn't, but I feel better that way than I do if, like, well, I've beaten this year Dead Space and Tales of Arise, but I haven't tried a bunch of indie things.
Right.
So,
right.
kind of my long, stupid brain story about how I do that, but.
Yeah, and then we have also the show. I think sometimes when you're wrapping around about what you want to play, I mean, the show factors in because you want to bring something to talk about.
It does.
You know,
Yep.
That's kind of like, why I just was like, when you gave me Dead Space, it was like, oh, I got to beat Dead Space. Like, I just dropped everything and was like, this is the game.
Oh, that's right, I gave you that.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what? You bought Dead Space?
And same for you. When I gave it back to you, you're probably just like, well, this is it because we've set a deadline for ourselves to beat it, and you got to do it. So.
And that, I'm adapting my style. Yeah, just as I go through life. As my kids get older, I'm gonna have more time. Like, that's gonna change. But yeah, with the show here now, I kind of like that. I that's part of the reason I wanted to pitch the idea of the extra show to you too. Anyways, like, cool. It's like it's a dedicated thing.
Right.
I gotta do it, and I could probably go to my wife a little bit easier and be like, no, honey, I actually have to play video games tonight for the show.
Yeah. It's putting a gun to your head.
Yeah. Yep. The best gun. The most fun gun.
Yeah.
What about you,
But
man?
actually, but you touched on something that I actually kind of like, is like the this or that method. I actually kind of like that. Like, you take all your games, if they're physical, maybe you get them in front of you and you just, you keep plugging them in. Or there's probably, software that will do this for you. But if you could just do this or that, maybe you even do it just, 10 minutes of your game log, this or that. So every game eventually gets compared to one another.
Yep.
You'd probably have, or just noticing yourself that you're clicking on or picking one game over and over again, over all of them.
Exactly. Yep.
So I think like you'll eventually wheedle it down,
Fucking
or just
Outer
percentage
Wilds.
wise, Chorus is getting, picked 20 times. Every other game is at, single digits or, just below it. So it must be Chorus that I'm drawn to. So I actually think that's the method.
Yeah, because that's you're exactly right. If you do this enough times, which I do it almost every time I finish a game, you start, your brain will start to be like, okay, I've been thinking about Undertale forever, but but it's always there. So like, you know what, let's do it. That's a quick one, and also, we don't need to get into trophy discussions because that's for for poisonous, stupid people.
Yeah, let's not. But for most people, that is not a consideration.
Yeah,
but no, I think we did it. I think we solved it.
We did it. Yep, this or that. Nobody ever thought of that.
Yeah.
One last question: do you ever consider the release date of the product to push it forward for you? Like if there's a game, like for instance, Metal Gear Solid 5, still a game in my backlog.
Yeah.
It's like, do you ever consider like maybe I should play that more because it's at this point 8 years old versus, or like I personally don't. It's just a question.
I'm usually not in that boat, so no, I don't.
You are a much more focused person,
right? I don't think about that, but I do think. I thought you were going the other way of like, well, Resident Evil 4. I probably wouldn't be pressured to play Resident Evil 2 and 3 in the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But with them coming, with that game coming, it's like I want to make sure to get that done.
Yeah,
I don't really go back.
We'll be playing The Last of Us 2 again for the season 2 of the show, I'm sure. So.
I'm sure. Cross media is going to be a thing too. Just like when you think about what Cyberpunk Edge Runners did for Cyberpunk 2077, it's like, it's in your mind and you'll be back. And I think once we get to Last of Us season 2, or even just an inkling of it coming, or probably whenever Sony just announces the PS5 version of Last of Us 2, which part 2 they will do.
I bet the moment season 1 ends, like I bet once season 1 ends, like you're gonna see a spike in Last of Us 2 sales.
Probably.
It's like, all right, I got it. What happens next? What's going on? Like I don't know. I got a PS4. Let me just get this thing. Actually, my sister just got The Last of Us 2. Her husband bought it for her like 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
yeah, okay. So she's I I don't know. I haven't talked to her about it. I wonder what she thinks. I don't know if it'd be weird if she's playing the game while she's watching the show, though. So I don't know.
Right.
I'll talk to her about it. And get her on the show.
All right, so yeah, well,
Solved it.
that ended up working out.
Nice.
Good, we solved it. Fuck you.
It's our little piece of.
Fuck you, Wheel.
You realize that's why you have choice per else. You're cursed now.
Yeah.
You're cursed. All right. So, kind of speaking of games that, I kind of figured out pretty quickly that it might not have been for me, but that's not to say that there's not a lot to like about this. Is Nick and I both had a chance to check out the Humanity demo. Mm-hmm. And right off the bat, Nick, what are your overall thoughts of it?
Well, let's explain what the Humanity game is.
Okay.
It is a grid-based 3D puzzle in which you, as a Shibu Inu, lead a bunch of people to a gate.
Yes.
And how you do that is by issuing commands to them. It starts out very simple, just left or right, navigate around a few obstacles, and then you'll start learning more commands: jump, long jump, float, and the maps will get more and more intricate. And you can move along the map by traversing through these people. You kind of just like get sucked into them, and then wherever they go, you can just get there too. So that's what it is. And my initial thoughts is, while I love the presentation around it, and the music and the overall vibe, I just couldn't get behind the puzzle mechanics. I didn't find it very fun or interesting, and I will probably just say that's just because of me and my personal choices.
Yep.
We mentioned that it's very similar to Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and I don't think when we talked about that game we ever mentioned the Clank parts where you
No, I was trying to get through those as quick as I could.
yeah, so I think just as like my gamer taste, it wasn't for me. But I did like everything around it. I thought it had the same kind of presentation that Rez and Tetris Effect did. So
Yeah. I mean, and I'm very, very similar to you. I think within 5 minutes of this, I knew it wasn't going to be a game that I wanted to keep playing, but I easily could understand the strengths of the game. And as you just said, Nick, this is made by Enhance Studios, who worked on Rez Infinite and Tetris Effect, which are two very, very well-received puzzlers. I think Rez Infinite's at an 88 on OpenCritic, and Tetris Effect is 90, so I don't doubt that this game's going to be very high quality. If you're into this kind of thing, there's probably going to be a lot to love. But it's hard for me playing a game like this because, like, as Nick said, you're leading this huge amount of people to this gate where sometimes they're going to fall off a cliff, sometimes they're going to crash and die, sometimes there's these giant golden guys that you try to lead around, which I think are basically bonus points.
they're collectibles.
They're collectibles. And sometimes those guys fall off. And every single time any of that thing happens, I feel bad. And my initial response is to restart the level because I was like, no, I didn't do it right. Even though it's like, no, it's fine. Like, just keep going. It's just, for me, I just like, I have to do things perfectly.
I don't think it's possible later on, though.
I don't think it is either, because like you start to have these, there's humans with blue sticks and humans with red sticks, and they shoot at each other, and then there's these black humans. That was what I meant. That's not what I meant. There's humans that are, shadowy colored or whatever. And, you kind of interact with the portals, I think, to change them, to do whatever. Like, so there's so many things that I know it's only going to get to a point where I just go, throw my hands up and say, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
But I do encourage everybody to check out the demo. If you are a puzzle person, if you're somebody who just likes to kind of use your brain while you play, I think this is going to be a very, very easy game to like for you.
Yeah, and I don't think very many games come out like this. No. I don't think there's a lot out there, so it's definitely filling a void, I think, in the gaming space for, a Captain Toad on, Wii U or whatever, like games like that they're just very few like that, so.
I gotta imagine, like, the whole thing about this game is, like, every time you figure out the solution of a level, it's awesome, because there's probably just guys flying everywhere, there's huge balls of, like, humans, and they're swirling and twirling, and once you get there, it's probably awesome, but just, the journey of setting up the level or whatever, man.
Yeah.
I don't have enough time in my life for this kind of stress.
Yeah.
So, All right, Nick, you want to bring in the next thing we've been playing?
Yeah. So after John's very positive take on the game Norco, I didn't have choice paralysis here. After I beat Hogwarts, I was like, well, let me check this game out because John thought of it so highly. And boy, did he fuck me. I'm just kidding.
It worked.
I'm mixed on this game very much so. It is very much a point-and-click adventure. Very, 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 very much so. You are not walking a character around. You are not doing anything. You are clicking on items in the menu or in the environment. Your cursor is just basically a mouse cursor that you're controlling with your controller. And you're doing your best to figure out a bunch of adventure game-like puzzles, like where does this key go, and who do I need to talk to get this, and I need to recruit this guy. How do I recruit this guy? Oh, he needs a dog, and all that, and going on and so on and so forth. Again,
Right.
adventure game,
Right.
entirely. But what Norco really shines at is great art direction, great music. And a story that I at least have to know how it ends. So I just finished Act 2, so I think there are 3 acts.
Yep.
So I'm pretty far along. I believe I'm farther than you are.
Yeah, I'm probably halfway to in between 1 and 2. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. So all that, and then the setting, like John did mention this. The Louisiana Bayou, but it's kind of like it's like cyberpunk, but not really. It's like a very grungy version of cyberpunk.
Yeah, I think Blade Runner was probably a better thing to when I was
Yes.
explaining it last week. Blade Runner is probably a little more apt than Cyberpunk.
Yeah,
But-
you have a robot companion. There's a lot of drones flying around everywhere. There's just a lot of interesting things.
It's futuristic yet dirty. It's weird.
Yeah, so I really don't like the adventure game elements at all. Did you get to the stair part where you have to climb upstairs? And
No.
go? Okay. Well, then I won't talk about that. But when I'm not doing the adventure game parts where I think sometimes they can get a little obtuse, because I think that was the problem with a lot of adventure games is like they were always in the mindset of the person that created the puzzle.
Right.
And sometimes like your brain just doesn't go where their brain's going all
No.
the time. Yeah, when I'm not doing that and I'm just like I'm absorbing the story, I'm enjoying it. I'll chuckle here and there at the writing, and like I said, I'm at least I want to see where it ends because it is a very bizarre game. So
Yeah. You're absolutely right. It is fully a point and click game, but I just I kind of view a game like this almost as like a palate cleanser, like kind of like we were talking about. It's like after you play a game like Dead Space or something like that, it's like it was just very nice to kind of sit on my couch, not be stressed out, just click, absorb a story. I'll say this, I don't mind. I'm a smoker, so like I smoke, I chill, I look at this game, and it's just the music hits right, the vibe is right, and yeah, I'm still enjoying it as well. I don't know what direction the story is going to take. It's
there's no way to predict.
It's very strange, but it's like this game just does a pretty nice job of, while being slow, I think it's paced pretty well because you kind of like go into these weird little like sub stories that kind of like every once in a while that really kind of mix it up a little bit, or you enter a new area on the map that you're able to go to and you meet a new character that's got some just kind of weird in some way that you can't really put a finger on or whatever the case. But yeah, I just sometimes I try my best to, when I evaluate a game, evaluate it in the pretense of the game, right? I do the same thing with movies, or if I want to watch a movie made from 1940, it's like I try to
Right.
my best to put my head in the space of when this movie came out. Like I'm not like, oh well, the action in this isn't anything like Transformers. It's like, no, of course not. But so I try to do the same thing with something like a point and click game, and really just it's almost like a test for myself too, because like I do consider myself so big into video games and stuff. I value wide ranges of opinions. I value in music and movies just not writing anything off, and so I thought this was a good one to go for, and happy I did, and hopefully it sticks the landing. 'Cause,
Yeah.
it's I think I'm a little higher on it than Nick, but like it's just different. Whatever your tastes are, And, if you were a narrative guy, which I'm not, so, again, I contradict myself all the time. I think this is one not to skip. It's only $15, right? When it's not on sale, I got it for $8. So
Yeah, I did get it for $8.
Oh, you did?
The sale was still going, yeah.
Oh, you didn't tell me that, you little sneaky bitch. Good. Well, I'm glad you got it a little cheaper.
Yeah.
For the cost of a hamburger.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, a palate cleanser is exactly what it is. So
Yep.
if you just want to sit back and relax, it is definitely one of those games. So, all right, let's move on into our final topic. No surprise here. It is continuing to recap HBO's The Last of Us. We are all the way up to episode 7, titled Left Behind, sharing the same name with the DLC that released after The Last of Us released. Now, before we get into it, John, you had just beat this DLC not very long ago.
No, for the first time, too.
Yeah, for the first time. So I wanted to what were your thoughts going into the episode? Because expectations were set that this was just going to be that story, and that's what it was.
Yep.
So what were your expectations going into it before you even saw it?
My expectations was that it was going to be much harder to divert from anything with this than the main game because it takes place in the past.
Right.
So I kind of was just going into expecting what we got with some of the big major moments like the carousel ride and some other things. And really for me, I was viewing this episode as the true test of Bella Ramsey and just like, can she carry an episode by herself, without Joel, with introducing a new character that she needs to make sure we are able to care about, at least to some degree. And I think she nails it. I think Bella is the biggest standout from this entire show, at least from an actor personnel level. And I'm just very, very happy to see every single person who was out there going, she doesn't look like Ellie. It's just kind of like, doesn't have shit to say now. And it seems like the general discussion is like, this is why it's important to cast a good actor as opposed to like just who fits the look of it. And
well, she never had the body of work that other actors that Pedro does. We knew what to expect with Pedro. She just, for most of us was just the Mormon girl in Game of Thrones, so we just didn't have a lot to work with. But
for sure, but it's it's like how many huge, big 15 to 19-year-old actresses are out there. It's like, it seemed like it was just people picking on people just because they wanted to or whatever the case. But needless to say, the episode itself, I think, set out to do what it needed to do. It was not the best episode of the season. But if this is the low point that we have to go for, like we are eating,
sure
we are eating well, like we are eating very well. Like I like the episode. I think a little more than some other people did, but I think Storm Reed, who played Riley, awesome job. She really embodied that character, and a lot of the mall scenes, which I don't know if we want to get into on a more granular basis or if we're just. But I thought it was all, very, very fitting. If Bill's backstory was a wild departure, this was nice to kind of just have it's like, this is what it is.
Yeah, because, as you mentioned, it was a 1-for-1. And I guess are we planning to recap the whole episode? I don't think we really need to.
I don't think we need to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
no.
yeah. So I've just kind of like some mental notes here that I thought were interesting. One is Ellie has always had this scar on her face, and we, to this day, will never know what that was. But at least in this show, they referred to it as the 7-Eleven incident.
Yeah.
Very early on in this episode, and I don't know. I just like that they kind of expand on the mystery, but also be like, what the fuck is the 7-Eleven incident?
Yeah.
Yep. Like, what did they get into in the 7-Eleven?
Well, and I did find it interesting that Neil kind of almost like, I don't want to tell anybody because I might want to use that in the future.
It's possible.
Where he's like, if there is more flashbacks or God knows what the future of this series is. I found that interesting as well.
Yeah, and also speaking on, like, we knew that Bella had to really hit it on this episode, is I was really hoping that we would get a good sense before the end of the episode that the chemistry and the awkwardness between the actors, because as we know now is like they were both characters that had crushes on each other. But it was great throughout the episode, all the ways they tested it. You know, like the scene in front of the Victoria's Secret, which was new to this. You know, where Riley's like, "Oh, I'm imagining you in that," and Bella's all embarrassed, and oh my gosh. But the second Riley looks away, Bella's in the mirror, like adjusting her hair, like, "Oh my gosh, does she like me? Like, I need to look good or something," Or the photo booth scene, which was in the game. It was just peppered enough throughout that it really captured that awkwardness of being a teenager and having no idea how to express your feelings, let alone a gay teenager who also has to take in the fact that the other person might not be into girls. So
you might ruin everything you've built with this person in an instant.
Yeah, and then I really think that was probably the challenge I saw going into this, and no, they killed it. Like the body language of Bella Ramsey throughout the episode, the faces she makes at Riley, just nailed it.
That's it, man. That's where she shines. It's not the moment at the end of the episode when she gets bit and she gets mad that she's bit and she's yelling. That's great acting as well, but it's these little tiny things that she does with her eyes that if you really pay attention to the acting in this episode, it's as good as I've ever seen, especially from a young woman like Bella. I mean, it's pretty incredible, honestly. But yeah, I mean,
can I talk about what I didn't like?
Of course. No.
They ruined my scene, John. The fighting game scene.
Yeah.
Instead of,
this is 2 episodes in a row we didn't get what we kind of were hoping, or maybe not hoping, but yeah.
The scene in the Left Behind where in the game none of the arcade machines work, so instead Riley tells Ellie to close her eyes, and then she recreates it in your brain, and it's this cute little playable sequence where you're really zoomed in on Ellie's face. It was my favorite scene in the Left Behind DLC, but they took it out entirely. I don't know what is their obsession with Mortal Kombat 2. Great game, but instead in this, the machines work and they play a lot of Mortal Kombat 2, which they did a good job of doing the Easter eggs. Ellie has mentioned the Melina fatality. She was familiar with the game when they ran into it in that convenience store. So it was a good payoff as to why she would know that. But still, I missed that scene. It's so good.
Yeah, it's a really special scene. But I do kind of understand why they would cut that from the show. Like, I feel like it's a great moment as a player because, like, you are
it's interactive.
You are Ellie in that moment. But like, just from a TV standpoint, it'd be kind of I could almost see it getting awkward or cringy, like if they tried to just enact that in real life.
Right.
But either way, yeah. And so, this ending or this episode as well, it kind of ends the way you expect it to end. It's hard to know if people who didn't play the DLC thought that, oh, maybe this one works out okay. You're a psycho if you think it would, but I just gotta say, man, the Fireflies really fucked over Riley by like if her job was to be posted in this mall to guard the bombs and like they didn't even take the time to check. Like, it's not like that infected was hidden crazily. It was like in one of the stores, and so it's just like to give a girl a gun to say, "Hey, go guard this shit," and if something happens, I don't know. Like it just seemed like they fucked her real hard with that one. But no, yeah, man. There's only 2 more episodes left, and I don't know. I have a feeling next episode's going to be rough from a violence.
Just next
standpoint.
episode, huh?
Yeah. Sunshine and Rainbows for the finale. But yeah, it's interesting. We're kind of in the same. It's interesting though. We're in the same place we were at the end of episode 6, though, which I will say is kind of thinking back on it. It's like, yeah, that does kind of suck. Especially if you're a person who doesn't know the story, you'd be like, well, I guess we're still hanging out, still kind of waiting to see what's going to get resolved here.
I still think they do a good job of tying in the past story into the future story with Ellie, not leaving Joel to die, but the coming back and trying to get as much precious time that we have on this earth with him by trying to save him. So, I still think they did a good job of that. But yeah, I'm sure people are like, "Let's go," and we'll be going. Don't worry about that.
Have they said how long these next 2 are going to be? I wonder if one's going to be like an hour and a half or anything, or if.
I mean, the quote unquote David arc, I won't go any further than that, is a pretty meaty chunk.
Oh yeah.
So I would imagine this could be one of the longest episodes, or the next two in general, just probably some of the longer episodes. So.
Called When We Are in Need.
Yeah,
Next episode.
Yeah, but the next two episodes are going to be
Man,
going to be excellent.
Left Behind sitting at a 7.4. People were not too high on it, but that's okay because the
like
show.
you said, it was a different type of episode. I know people
It's the fly episode.
Yeah, exactly. When you kind of kill the momentum of the show to tell another story, people don't
Some
like
people
that.
don't,
But
yeah.
we had different expectations as people who played the game. Right, John? Are we comfortable announcing our next bonus episode?
Do it.
All right. So, in relation to HBO's The Last of Us, our next bonus episode, our bonus episode for March, will be a giant HBO's The Last of Us discussion. We are actually going to move episode 9 into that, so it won't be the sixth thing after it airs, but we will be probably releasing that bonus episode very shortly behind that, probably the same week. But I figured we want to talk about the show as a whole. We want to talk about the show, where it's going to be going, the future, with our knowledge of Last of Us Part 2. And just, it is going to be a huge discussion that it deserves its own bonus episode. So no video game next, just all The Last of Us, just all this adaptations.
I'm still so happy this show's so good. I'm still just so tickled.
What if it doesn't stick the landing, John?
How is that possible? It's not possible.
One of the most, yeah.
Yeah, with what they've shown us so far and how we know this it's not possible.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, makes me a happy boy. And if you recall, Nick, I'm going to keep reminding everybody that I said this was going to be a special show before we even saw a minute of it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
how special
Well,
this
you had a lot of good knowledge of all the people working on it. How could it not be?
That's true. Yeah, right. Maybe if you had some taste and watched Chernobyl, you would have known.
Hey, I've seen Scary Movie 3.
These are Craig Mazin, the writer of the show. He of The Last of Us. He wrote 2019's Chernobyl, which is absolutely fantastic miniseries. But yeah, dude also did Scary Movie 3. So there's a little bit of fun fact for you. Craig Mazin, what a guy! What a guy!
All right, so that is six things. John, do we have anything to tease for next week? There is a Capcom event. I don't know if we'll get anything new from that, or just more of their current slate of titles, but they did have a Capcom event for March 9th announced.
What did they officially announce Dragon Dog? They did Dragon's Dog, so that's like a thing we haven't seen anything of.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not expecting anything huge, but yeah, if there's anything, we'll get that. But
Yeah.
no, Nick, I'm just hoping to play a video game. Like that's all I'm hoping to do. I just want to play one game for a little bit of time. So hopefully I can get Norco. I had a very heavy family week, so trying to be there for my kids. But no, I think it's that, and then yeah, same for me, man. That and Elden Ring.
Yeah.
With maybe some Hogwarts watching my wife.
Yeah. It's always great to co-pilot a video game.
It's the worst. It's the worst. You get all it's all the enjoyment is being funneled through the other person while you just get like pooped on with like, how do I do this? You do this. No, turn around. No, turn around. There's see the shiny white thing? Where?
So, but that's what we do for love. So, what about you, man? You might actually get to play some stuff, huh?
Yes, I am. Not to rub it into John, but I am in the exact opposite camp, where I have a weekend to myself, in which I plan to finish Norco, finish Resident Evil 2, and I hope to jump into Resident Evil 3. But John, I really want to play Persona 5.
Yeah, well, maybe you get time for some this or that.
Really want to.
You're doing some this or that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, whenever you start that, you have to have at least 3 days, a 3-day span where you're not going to be bothered, so you can really get into it. Because 100 hours, bud, buckle up.
Yeah, perfect timing.
I am super curious to think of what you'll think of that.
Yeah, choice paralysis. $100 RPG. Let's go.
Yeah. Nick and I don't approach these things the same.
No. Well, that game's been on my mind for a very long time.
Right, no, exactly. But that's exactly it. That's right. That's when you're analyzing your backlog, it's like I can't shake this one thing, so maybe it's time.
It's just that hole in my.
Now, are you
gaming
going to do the
knowledge.
silly thing where you buy the Royal Edition or just
Yeah, you gotta play the better version.
not better? It's just
There's a
more.
PS5 version now, so it's great.
That's
So I'm just buying the PS5 version. It doesn't matter.
well,
All right.
Mr. Buku Bucks over here.
All right, John. What song are we leaving them on?
Right. This is from the PSVR Classic Beat Saber. I had my own. I had my time with this game. Got a platinum in it, so I'm a very, very big fan of it. But Breezer from Yaroslav Beck is the song that we're going to be listening to. Turn your radios down or up, depending if you want to jam out. But if you're listening to this loud, it's going to be loud. If you want to jam out, turn your shit up. Good stuff.
If you're driving, slow down.
Yes.
All right, so we are done.
Especially in this weather.
Yeah, especially in Fimbulwinter, you want to take it a little slow.
Yes.
So, all right, that is 6 things. We thank you for listening. We will be back next week with another 6 things. Thanks for listening. Bye.